And I would like to request the team from the Thakur Ram Narayan College of Law, Dahisar East, representing the Pearl House. Please team, come forward and take the seats to proceed with the session on Occupational Safety, Health and Working Conditions Code 2020.
सदन में आज चर्चा किए जाने वाले विषय का सदन का परिचय कराएं।
आदरणीय अध्यक्ष महोदय जी, नमस्कार। विरोधी पक्ष, आपको भी मेरा नमस्कार। आज के इस मानसून सत्र के लिए सरकार अत्यंत उत्साहित तथा उन्मादपूर्ण है। आज के इस सत्र की शुरुआत करने से पहले मैं बस यह कहना चाहूँगी कि सरकार द्वारा आयोजित किया गया कार्यक्रम आज़ादी का अमृत महोत्सव अब संपूर्ण देश में हर कोने में पहुंच चुका है। देश के विभिन्न राज्यों, शहरों, गांवों, जिलों से विभिन्न धर्म, जाति, पंथ, भेद, लिंग के लोगों ने इस कार्यक्रम में, इस पहल में भाग लेकर यह साबित कर दिया है कि ये एक नया तथा प्रगतिशील भारत है। ये भारत एकता, विविधता, प्यार, भाईचारा और लोकतंत्र से बाध्य है। आज के इस मानसून सत्र में सरकार व्यावसायिक सुरक्षा, स्वास्थ्य और कार्यस्थिति संहिता 2020 यानी ही ऑक्यूपेशनल सेफ्टी, हेल्थ एंड वर्किंग कंडीशंस कोड ऑफ 2020 से सदन का परिचय कराएगी। इस चर्चा के लिए सरकार की तरफ से मैं, प्रधानमंत्री और 4 अधिक मंत्री यहाँ प्रस्तुत है। वह है श्रम और रोजगार मंत्री, कानून एवं न्याय मंत्री, वित्त मंत्री और वाणिज्य एवं उद्योग मंत्री। अब बात करते हैं आज के इस सत्र की। इस सत्र के इस संहिता के बारे में विपक्ष नेताओं के पास बड़े सुझाव है। सुझाव पे सुझाव दिए ही जा रहे हैं। इनके राज्य में कहाँ थे ये सुझाव? उन्होंने तो तब श्रमिक वर्ग के बारे में सोचा नहीं, और आज जो उनके बारे में सोच रहे हैं उन्हें ये सोचने देते नहीं। काम भी हम करें और बदनाम भी हम ही हो। हमारी सरकार का नारा एक है और निश्चित है। अध्यक्ष महोदय जी के इजाजत से मैं ये नारा प्रस्तुत करना चाहूंगी।
अनुमति है।
आज का है एक नारा, आज का है एक नारा, देश हमारा सबसे प्यारा, सबके संग हो भाईचारा, यही है हमने ललकारा। कंधे से कंधा मिलता है तो चलता है ये देश हमारा। है सहारा इनका भी और उनका भी, जो वतन के है वो मन में है और तन बदन में है, और है उनसे जुड़ी प्रेरणा। आंख खोलकर लिखा दे और आज सबको यही दिखा दे कि मुसीबतों से है हमने सीखा। प्रारंभ से अंत तक और अंत से अनंत तक चलता रहे ये देश हमारा। आज का है एक नारा, आज का है एक नारा। धन्यवाद। जय हिंद।
माननीय नेता प्रतिपक्ष, कृपया अपने विचार प्रस्तुत करें।
Greetings to the Parliament. Greetings to the Parliament, to the Honorable Prime Minister, to the Honorable Speaker, Ministers of the Government, and to the Parliament. First of all, I would like to thank all the members present in this Parliament, as you have allowed me to present my views in front of you. Like always, the use of lofty language by the government did not surprise us. People listening to me today, and soon other members of the opposition, may think that we are here against the initiative taken by the government and are here to nitpick and to prove that the efforts taken by the government towards making this labor law is not so adequate. But let me assure you, proving that this government has not been adequate enough towards making of this law, if anything, is second on our list. The main reason why we are here today is because we care about the laborers and the labor class and are concerned about how the bills that have been passed will affect them. While we believe that the goal of improving the existing labor law is admirable, the government has yet again proved that how they do not pay attention, as they have missed the most prominent areas that require immediate attention. One such area is the agricultural sector. Where the topic which is up for discussion today, which is occupational safety, health, and working conditions, is highly unregulated. Moreover, the government has failed to include any establishment which employs less than 10 workers. This in itself is the biggest flaw in the code. The reason why I'm telling this is because, according to the 6th Economic Census report, a staggering amount of establishments employ fewer than 10 workers, which effectively pushes them out of the ambit of this code. Furthermore, the code leaves room for high level of ambiguity and does not provide any standards pertaining to the subject matter of the code. Rather, empowers either the state or the central government to stipulate such standards. While this may result in a political maneuver, the main question that arises here is, should the legislation retain the power to make decisions in such matters, or should the government be delegated such powers? We believe in order to provide maximum benefits, the code should have been made considering the ground realities rather than relying on not so sufficient hypotheses. Since while making such provisions, it is important to know and ensure that the provisions which are being implemented or are being passed are supposed to be clear and should be free of any ambiguity or multiple interpretations. If not, such a major overhaul is a waste of precious time of this parliament. Thank you. धन्यवाद.
श्रम एवं रोजगार मंत्री महोदया, संसद को चर्चा के विषय का संक्षिप्त वर्णन प्रदान करें.
Honorable Speaker, if I may begin with my introduction.
अनुमति है.
Much obliged. It is very pertinent to note, firstly, that before even introducing the code to this session, our beloved opposition has already given their views. Therefore, let me introduce the Occupational Safety, Health and Working Conditions Code 2020 in today's session. This code is one of the 3 new labor codes that will consolidate the bulk of labor legislation in India and streamline labor compliance besides expanding the social security net for the workers. Therefore, one can conclude that this new labor code introduced by our government seeks to bring uniformity to the way labor laws are implemented in this country so far. For this Parliament's preference, let me highlight one of the key provisions of this code. Firstly, this particular code mandates the issuance of appointment letter for all kinds of workers in the occupation. Secondly, not only this, but they expand the benefits of Provident Fund or insurance or additional kind of benefits not only to the state workers but even the interstate migrant workers as well. Furthermore, this code also introduces the carryover of annual leaves, therefore ensuring that all the workers get their paid leaves at the end. This code has also stringent its penalty provisions to ensure that the occupiers do not violate the workers' rights and give what they are rightful for. And last but not the least, today India is fighting for gender equality, and this code ensures not only for men, women, but even for transgender communities, ensuring that all the citizens of this country get what they need when they work. With this, I conclude my speech. Thank you. Jai Hind.
प्रश्नकाल प्रारंभ किया जाता है. आज की चर्चा का विषय व्यावसायिक सुरक्षा, स्वास्थ्य और कार्यस्थल स्थिति संहिता 2020 ऑक्यूपेशनल सेफ्टी हेल्थ एंड वर्किंग कंडीशन कोड 2020 है। प्रश्न क्रमांक 101।
Honorable Speaker, I would like to direct my question to Ministry of Law and Justice.
अनुमति है।
As per Section 103, subsection 2, which is a provision amounting to double jeopardy, which is both unconstitutional and against the principle of natural law and justice. How will the government justify this?
कानूनन एवं न्याय मंत्री। अनुमति है।
माननीय अध्यक्ष महोदय, मैं आपके माध्यम से इस सदन को तथा माननीय सांसद जिन्होंने इस प्रश्न को पूछने का कष्ट किया है उन्हें बता देना चाहता हूं कि अगर सत्ता में बैठी हुई सरकार कोई भी कानून या विधेयक पारित करती है तो उसके पीछे कई वर्षों की मेहनत, बुद्धिजीवियों की टिप्पणी एवं अनेक प्रकार के समितियों के सुझाव के बाद ही करती है। और जहां तक बात रही माननीय सांसद के प्रश्न की, तो मैं ये बता देना चाहूंगा कि अगर कोई भी व्यक्ति किसी भी प्रकार का अपराध करता है और अगर उस अपराध के कारण हुई हानि का अगर वह भरपाई भी कर देता है तो इसका अर्थ यह नहीं कि उसको यह लाइसेंस मिल चुका है कि वो इस प्रकार का अपराध दोबारा दोहरा सके। माननीय अध्यक्ष महोदय, व्यावसायिक सुरक्षा, स्वास्थ्य और कार्यस्थल स्थिति संहिता 2020 की धारा 103 भाग 2 में यह कहा गया है कि धारा 103 भाग 1 के अंतर्गत जिस व्यक्ति ने भी कोई भी अपराध किया है, अगर वह सजा पाने के बाद भी उस प्रकार का अपराध दोबारा दोहराता है तो उसको सजा की दोगुनी सजा दंडनीय होगी। और जहां तक बात रही डबल जेपर्डी की, तो मैं बताना चाहूंगा, इट इज द सैड ड्यूटी ऑफ द एम्प्लॉयर टू इंश्योर दैट वर्क प्लेस शुड बी फ्री फ्रॉम द hazards which cause or likely to cause injury or occupational disease to the employee, and he has to comply with all the declared occupational safety and health standards under section 18 or the rules, regulations, bylaws or order made under the same act. और यह धारा 6 और धारा 80 में साफ साफ कहा गया है। माननीय अध्यक्ष महोदय, धारा 94 इस कोड में यह बात करता है कि अगर कोई भी नियोक्ता, प्रमुख नियोक्ता उन सारे मानकों, नियमों, उपनियमों के पृष्ठभूमि का पालन करने में असमर्थ होता है तो वह दंड के लिए उत्तरदायी होगा। और इस धारा में यह भी कहा गया है कि यदि दोष पूर्ण रूप से सिद्ध होने के बाद भी अगर वह उल्लंघन जारी रहता है तो वह सजा व्यापक दायरे में बढ़ सकती है। माननीय अध्यक्ष महोदय, इस धारा को महत्व देने का कारण केवल और केवल समाज के उस स्तंभ को सुरक्षित करना है जिसके कारण हमारी अर्थव्यवस्था निरंतर प्रगति कर रही है। और मैं इस सदन को बता देना चाहता हूं कि अगर जब तक भारतीय कामगार वर्ग को कार्य क्षेत्र में मूलभूत सुविधाएं प्राप्त होती रहेंगी तब तक अंतर्राष्ट्रीय पटल पर भारत को उत्कृष्ट प्रदर्शन करने से कोई नहीं रोक सकता। धन्यवाद। जय हिंद।
प्रश्न क्रमांक 102।
Honorable Speaker, I would like to direct my question to the respected Prime Minister.
अनुमति है।
In Section 85 of the Code, which talks about persons with prescribed qualification in handling hazardous substances at workplace, however, there is no mentioning of what standards and what qualification are required for the same. So how does the government recognize this issue?
Honorable Speaker, if only the opposition had actually taken out time to go through the code and read the code, they wouldn't be posing such a question to the parliament and wasting its precious time. One of the major drawbacks of our existing regulatory system pertaining to labor was its reliance on inspectors and its eventual descent into an inspector Raj. Section 34, subsection 3, clause 1 of the Occupational Safety, Health and Working Conditions Code 2020 states that for the purposes of an inspection, the appropriate government may lay down a scheme that provides for the generation of web-based inspection and calling of information electronically. There is also mention of randomized selection of establishment for inspection by inspector cum facilitator. Thus here, we see the removal of total control that an inspector previously had over inspection proceedings. In the sense that the use of electronic records allows for a more transparent procedure, as the physical aspect of inspection is displaced with an electronically operated module that, when coupled with randomized selection and online inspection of uploaded documents, creates a more streamlined process. The module is designed in a way so as to prevent any potential collusion between the employer and the inspector. It will be a Sarkar's best effort to make this possible and take all necessary measures to successfully implement this. An additional committee will be appointed to scrutinize the process of such web-based selection. To ensure smooth functioning of the Office of Inspector cum Facilitator, a bi-monthly report about the inspections carried out will be submitted by the Inspector cum Facilitator to the appropriate government through the measures prescribed by such an appropriate government. As far as the question arises related to the roles and responsibilities and the authenticity of an inspector cum facilitator, the power will be kept in check through the chief inspector cum facilitator, who will directly report to the appropriate government through the prescribed measures. The government realizes that the efficacy of any legal framework is dependent on enforcement as a matter of basic jurisprudence. And the same holds true for India's latest labor laws. Thank you. Jai Hind.
प्रश्न क्रमांक 103.
Honorable Speaker, with your permission, I would like to direct my question to the Ministry of Commerce and Industry.
अनुमति है.
We observed, while defining the term appropriate government, the court states that the central government shall continue to be the appropriate government even after their stakes in that very central PSU drops below 50%. I would like to point out this fact to this Parliament that this definition was never used in the bill that came in 2019, nor were they used in the other three bills that came out in the same year. Though the aforementioned definition was not suggested for this code, but it is in direct contradiction with the recommendation from the standing committee for the other two bills, where they recommended that the central government should be the appropriate government only where their stakes are higher than 50%. I would like the minister to answer, why does the code allow the central government to be the appropriate government in a central public sector undertaking in which it no longer owns the controlling stake, and what made them take this step? Thank you.
वाणिज्य एवं उद्योग मंत्री.
Honorable Speaker, if I may,
अनुमति है.
to answer this simple question posed by opposition leader, I would first like to let you all know what is and who is appropriate government. The definition is in section 2 of OSH Code 2020. Who is appropriate government? If an employer has a business in an area which comes under the state is the appropriate government. Similarly, if an employer has business in area which comes under the central government is the appropriate government. The government is planning a major overhaul of the definition of state-run companies, where an entity will continue to qualify as public sector enterprise, even if the government holding falls below 50%. As in case of the code, the appropriate government mentions that the central government shall continue to be the appropriate government for the central public sector undertaking, even where the government has divested its stake below 50%. This could potentially provide a pathway to the government to undertake further divestment in the PSUs in the future, while considering the redressal demands of the PSU employees. Opposition, central government plays fair and square game. Also, to clear your doubts, the state government is the core of central government. Even though the central government holds 50% less stake in the state, the central government still continues to be the final decision maker. The central goes through every code, every decision, and sees if it's not violating any law and going against people of India. With respect to state government, the state government can't bypass the central government in the decision making. Less take doesn't impact decisions of central government as appropriate government. Opposition, the state government is like our little brother, and we do consider their decisions, don't we? With this, I conclude my answer. Thank you. Jai Hind.
प्रश्न क्रमांक 104।
Honorable Speaker, I would like to direct my question to the Ministry of Finance.
अनुमति है।
The world is going digital, Honorable Speaker, and so is India. Information technology in India is a vast industry. It comprises of information technology services, consulting and outsourcing. The IT industry itself accounted for a whopping 10% of India's GDP in the year 2020. And it's obvious that its contribution is going to increase in the coming time. It is one of India's fastest growing industries after all. So my question to the government is, isn't it crucial to ensure the health, well-being and safety of all the employees working in this sector? With that being said, if this sector is that important, why is it not even mentioned, let alone included in the said code? Thank you.
वित्त मंत्री।
माननीय महोदय, अगर आपकी सहमति हो तो मैं इस प्रश्न का उत्तर देना चाहूँगा।
अनुमति है।
माननीय महोदय, मैं आपके माध्यम से नेता विपक्ष को धन्यवाद देना चाहूँगा कि इन्होंने इस मुद्दे को सदन में प्रस्तुत किया, और साथ ही मैं इन्हें यह भी बता देना चाहता हूँ कि इनके प्रश्न में दो तथ्य मौजूद थे। इसमें से एक सत्य है और एक असत्य। असत्य यह है कि सरकार ने सूचना प्रौद्योगिकी क्षेत्र को इस संहिता में शामिल नहीं किया। महोदय, अगर विपक्ष नेता इस संहिता की धारा 2ZZL देखे तो वहाँ पर स्पष्ट तौर पर लिखा गया है कि कुशल कर्मचारी भी शामिल होंगे, और सूचना प्रौद्योगिकी क्षेत्र में कार्य करने वाले कर्मचारी कुशल हैं, इसलिए वे इस संहिता में शामिल हैं। महोदय, इनका जो प्रश्न था उसमें एक और तथ्य था जो कि सत्य है। वो यह है कि हाँ, आज भारत सूचना प्रौद्योगिकी क्षेत्र में बहुत तेज़ी से आगे बढ़ रहा है। जो सूचना प्रौद्योगिकी क्षेत्र 1998 में देश के घरेलू उत्पाद में 1 से 2% का योगदान प्रदान करता था, वो आज बढ़कर 10% हो गया है। महोदय, इस वित्तीय वर्ष की पहली तिमाही में सूचना प्रौद्योगिकी क्षेत्र ने कुल 1.20 लाख करोड़ का निर्यात किया है। 1.20 लाख करोड़। महोदय, और विपक्ष ये कह रहा है कि हम इस उद्योग के कर्मचारियों को इस लाभकारी संहिता से वंचित रख रहे हैं। ऐसा हो ही नहीं सकता। क्या बात कर रहे हैं आप? महोदय, स्थायी समिति की समीक्षा के बाद हमने इस संहिता में सारे धागे पकड़े हुए हैं। मैं आपसे और सदन में मौजूद सभी सदस्यों से ये अनुरोध करता हूं कि वे हमारे श्रमिक भाई बहनों को लाभ, अच्छे स्वास्थ्य और काम करने का माहौल प्रदान करने के लिए सरकार यानी हमारा सहयोग करें। धन्यवाद। जय हिंद।
प्रश्न क्रमांक 105।
Honorable Speaker, I would like to raise my question to the Ministry of Labour and Employment.
अनुमति है।
Informing about the biggest mistake of the code, Honorable Speaker, I would like to make you aware that Section 81 of the code talks about the power of appropriate government to consider any premises as factory irrespective of any criteria given for workers. However, at the same time, if we see the Section 2 states that there has to be minimum of 20 workers with the power of aid and 40 workers without the power of aid for any premise to be a factory. So one can conclude that these two provisions may supersede each other. So therefore, I want the ministry to please clarify this.
श्रम एवं रोजगार मंत्री।
Honorable Speaker, if I may answer the question proposed by the opposition.
अनुमति है।
For the Parliament's reference, may I again quote Section 81 of the Code, which states that the appropriate government may, by notification, declare that all or any of the provisions of this part shall apply to any place wherein a manufacturing process is carried on with or without the aid of power, or is ordinarily carried on irrespective of the number of workers working in the factory. Now this provision, honorable members of the Parliament, this provision does not supersede the applicability of this code, but it's an exemption to certain industries which are applicable under this code. And mind this, that this provision has been added to this code post the Standing Committee's report. Therefore, the objection raised by the beloved opposition shall not be taken into consideration. And non-obstantive laws do not have any superseding effect on any of the provisions contained in certain statutes or rules or regulations. Even the Apex Court has held this verdict in many and various cases. With this, I conclude my answer. Thank you for your time, Honorable Speaker. Jai Hind.
प्रश्नकाल की समाप्ति की जाती है। शून्यकाल प्रारंभ किया जाता है। शून्यकाल 15 मिनटों की अवधि का होगा। शून्यकाल का उद्देश्य नए प्रस्तावित श्रम कानूनों पर चर्चा करना है। क्रमांक 13।
Honorable Speaker, I would like to direct my question to the Honorable Government.
अनुमति है।
While addressing this session, the Ministry of Labour and Employment explicitly stated that the code being discussed today was introduced to bring uniformity, but has also empowered the state government to be the appropriate government to introduce the standards for aforementioned subject with respect to factories located in their territories, which will result in 28 different standards. Now my question to the government, to the Ministry of Labour and Employment, is that what will the government do to ensure all the standards introduced by state for factories are adequate, given that no minimum standards are prescribed?
सरकार।
Honorable Speaker, if I may answer the question proposed by the opposition.
अनुमति है।
Thank you. Firstly, we have to observe this fact that this code does not regulate a particular state, but is a centralized code applicable to all the territories of India. Secondly, the industries covered under this does not only contain one sort of industries, but various industries, including even journalists and even sales managers working. Thus, setting minimum standards in a code may violate one manufacturing process to the other. For instance, if a glass making factory, the work over there needs fire, flammable objects. But on the other hand, if we use a chocolate factory, over there using a fire might be a hazardous process. So therefore, as per your suggestion, if we include minimum standard in this code, don't you think that this will hamper the manufacturing process of either of the industries? Furthermore, earlier in the question hour, the opposition leader raised the question with respect to the stakes of the state government, therefore central being the appropriate authority. And now you are posing this question that the state government is getting all the power, therefore there will be no uniformity. I guess the opposition itself is having contradiction within themselves. And maybe that's why we are the government and they are the opposition. With this, I conclude my answer. Thank you for your time. Jai Hind.
Permission to ask supplementary question, Your Honorable Speaker.
अनुमति है।
while responding to the question posed by my fellow colleague, the learned Labour Minister completely overlooked the fact that many establishments in several states can be a common type of factory. Furthermore, if an entity owns multiple factories in multiple states, they will be required to follow different standards as prescribed by each state in which they own a factory, some of which might not be adequate. And the reason why I'm telling this is because, like I said in my opening statement, giving this power to the state or either the central government to stipulate any standard might result in a political maneuver. Furthermore, I believe difference in standards might make the implementation difficult for the entity who owns multiple factories in multiple states. How will the government address this issue?
सरकार.
Honorable Speaker, may I answer the question proposed by the Leader of the Opposition?
अनुमति है.
I think the Leader of the Opposition has overlooked the answer what I've already given previously, therefore wasting the precious time of this Parliament, but let me bring it to your attention. Firstly, yes, indeed, one company, for instance, may have several common industries in one state, but again, let me point out this fact that this code does not regulate one aspect of the industries, but all over the India, all the manufacturing processes, all kinds of occupations. Therefore, this question cannot be valid. Now, as per your safety standards are concerned, if you look at the code, there is a person given the authority to make a transparent report for such kind of standards, which will be submitted, and post that, the state government will make the safety standards for the required industry. Thus, without any wasting time further, I conclude my answer. Thank you for your time, Honorable Speaker. Jai Hind.
जी.
माननीय अध्यक्ष महोदय, अगर आपकी आज्ञा हो तो मैं सरकार से प्रश्न पूछना चाहती हूँ.
अनुमति है.
महोदय, अगर सरकार इस संहिता को देखे तो यह मालूम पड़ता है कि इसमें सिविल न्यायालय की शक्तियों का हनन किया गया है तथा उसे इस संहिता में निर्धारित उल्लंघनों में हस्तक्षेप करने से निषेध कर दिया गया है. अगर कार्य क्षेत्र में किसी भी प्रकार का उल्लंघन हो रहा हो तो एक मजदूर, एक सामान्य मजदूर सिविल न्यायालय में जाकर अपनी याचिका दायर करने की जगह उच्च न्यायालय या उच्चतम न्यायालय में जाकर अपनी याचिका किस दृष्टिकोण से दायर करेंगे?
सरकार.
माननीय महोदय, अगर आपकी अनुमति हो तो मैं इस प्रश्न का उत्तर देना चाहूँगा.
अनुमति है.
धन्यवाद महोदय. माननीय महोदय एवं मेरे विपक्षी सांसदों, मैं आपको बताना चाहूँगा इस संहिता के अनुसार सिविल न्यायालय को प्रारंभिक मामलों में दखल देने से निषेध नहीं किया गया है, अपितु इस संहिता का उद्देश्य न्यायपालिका पर बढ़ रहे वाद विवादों के निरंतर बोझ को कम करना है. सीआरपीसी के धारा 9 के अनुसार वह शक्ति इंस्पेक्टर कम फैसिलिटेटर को दे दी गई है जिसमें वह कार्य क्षेत्र से जुड़े विवादों पर ध्यान दे तथा उनका हल निकाले. जब भी कोई भी सुझाव की आवश्यकता या जांच की आवश्यकता होगी तो यह कार्य सिविल कोर्ट को ही सौंपा जाएगा. माननीय अध्यक्ष महोदय, इस संहिता के अनुसार राज्यों के उच्च न्यायालयों में केवल वही मामलों पर ध्यान दिया जाएगा जिसमें कामगार वर्ग का सामूहिक अधिकार या उससे संबंधित कोई भी विवाद हो जो समाज के एक बड़े समूह को प्रभावित करता हो. हम इस संहिता के उद्देश्य से न्यायपालिका पर बढ़ रहे दबाव को केवल कम करना चाहते हैं, ना कि उनके अधिकारों का या उनको असंवैधानिक रूप से निषेध करना चाहते हैं. धन्यवाद.
Honorable Speaker, I would like to direct my question to the government.
अनुमति है.
As we know, the wages differ from region to region.
workers migrating to different cities to uplift their wages, uplift the basic standard of living. Workers are migrating to different cities, but they are still in loss. For instance, if the worker's wage is rupees 12,000, out of which a considerable amount goes for rent, health, education and so on, after which workers left with insufficient savings left with them. So what is government doing about this?
सरकार
माननीय अध्यक्ष महोदय, मैं इस सवाल का जवाब देना चाहूँगी।
अनुमति है।
धन्यवाद। विपक्षी सांसद ने जिस प्रश्न को पूछा है उस प्रश्नों की तथ्यों में कुछ त्रुटि है। इस संहिता के अनुसार कार्य कर रहे वर्गों को कार्य क्षेत्र के अनुसार उचित रूप से अस्थायी भवन, चिकित्सा संबंधी सुविधा तथा बीमा योजना दी जा रही है। ये संहिता एक दूसरे से जुड़ी हुई है। ये संहिता के अनुसार कामगार वर्गों को जो होने वाला अधिक अनुचित रूप से होने वाले खर्चों को कम करना ही है।
Honorable Speaker, may I ask a question to the government?
अनुमति है।
Honorable Speaker, the government seems to be violating the principle of separation of power. As per the Industrial Relation Code prepared by Honorable Government, says that appropriate government has power to modify or reject the tribunal awards, knowing that these awards are to be given by judiciary. According to the similar provisions earlier, even Madras High Court struck down these provisions on constitutional basis and held that powers to execute and decline enforcing an award or to modify it allows the decision or executive to sit as appeal and help them to modify the tribunals. So why is executive overlapping the powers of judiciary?
सरकार
Honorable Speaker, may I answer the question raised by an opposition?
अनुमति है।
An award made under the Code of Industrial Relation, where under subsection 2, under subsection 2 shall become unenforceable on the expiry of 30 days from the date of its communication, as long as the competent government in an opinion in any such cases where the award should be given by tribunal in respect to industrial dispute to which it is a party. If in any situation the central government believes that the award should be given by National Industrial Tribunal, that will be inexpedient on the public ground which is affecting national economy as well as social justice. Your Honorable Speaker, to give some or all portion of the award, it may create such situation which is possible to appropriate government, or it is said to be the central government could announce that the award shall not become enforceable on the given such period, which is of 30 days. Jai Hind.
Honorable Speaker, I would like to direct my question to the government.
अनुमति है।
In Section 72 of Occupational Safety, Health and Working Conditions Code of 2020 that talks about vocational training, rescue and recovery in a mine. But if you observe the code, there is no description about vocational training by the current government, which is important as well as necessary for the skill development of the mine workers. So how does this issue is recognized by the government?
Honorable Speaker, I would like to answer this question.
अनुमति है।
As per Section 72 of Occupational Safety, Health and Working Condition Code 2020, government has provided a constructive procedure instead of just defining a vocational training. Under this procedure, the board will be formed, which shall consist of the Chief Inspector cum Facilitator, who will be the chairperson ex officio, the 3 members possessing technical qualification in mining or petroleum engineering or mechanical engineering, having at least 20 years of experience, one each in coal mines, metal mines and oil mines to represent each sector appointed by central government. 2 members possessing technical qualification in electrical, mechanical or allied engineering and having at least 20 years of experience and practical experience in mines appointed by central government. 2 members serving in an institution imparting education in human resource management at graduation, post-graduation or equivalent level and having 15 years of experience appointed by central government. Thank you.
इसी के साथ शून्यकाल की समाप्ति की जाती है। नेता प्रतिपक्ष कृपया सदन को संबोधित करें तथा चर्चा के विषय पर अपने विचार प्रस्तुत करें।
माननीय अध्यक्ष महोदय, अगर आपकी आज्ञा हो तो मैं इस सदन को कुछ वाक्यों से संबोधित करना चाहूँगा।
अनुमति है।
माननीय अध्यक्ष महोदय, आज जिस तरह सरकार ने विपक्ष नेताओं के गंभीर प्रश्नों का उत्तर दिया है, उससे एक चीज़ तो साफ है कि हमें इस संहिता से ज़्यादा एक नई सरकार की ज़रूरत है। 2019 में जब श्रम कानूनों पर 4 विधेयक पेश किए गए थे, उनमें से एक को मंजूरी मिली थी। उसी के बाद जो बाकी के 3 विधेयक जो बचे थे, उन्हें स्थायी समिति को विमर्श करने के लिए सौंपा गया था। स्थायी समिति के कुछ विचारों को और सुझावों को इस सरकार ने कुछ इस तरह नज़रअंदाज किया है जैसे इस देश में गरीबों के हित को किया जाता है। आज ये देश का हर एक नागरिक हमारे सामने बैठी हुई सरकार के काम करने के तरीकों से परिचित है। मैं आखिर में सिर्फ एक ही चीज़ कहना चाहूँगा इस सरकार से कि जिस तरह हमारे देश के वीरों ने अपना बलिदान दिया था समाज कल्याण के लिए, आप उस भावना को याद करते हुए देश के हित के लिए सोचते हुए काम करेंगे तो इस देश का भला हो जाएगा। धन्यवाद।
प्रधानमंत्री महोदय, कृपया आप सदन को संबोधित करें।
माननीय अध्यक्ष महोदय, आपके माध्यम से मैं इस सदन के समक्ष शुक्रिया अदा करना चाहूंगी विपक्ष नेताओं का। आज के इस संसद के सत्र में इन्होंने साबित कर दिया कि इस देश को हमारे सरकार की कितनी आवश्यकता है। जो कानून एवं कायदे विरोधी पक्ष ने भूतकाल में श्रमिक वर्ग के संबंध में बनाए थे, उनमें कई प्रकार की और कई सारी त्रुटियां थी। हमारी सरकार ने इन 13 ढीले अधिनियमों को इस प्रकार से समेकित किया है कि अब भूल की कोई गुंजाइश नहीं, कोई दायरा नहीं रहा। भूतकाल में, वर्तमान काल में और भविष्य काल में हमारे सरकार की यही कोशिश थी, यही कोशिश है और यही कोशिश रहेगी कि जो भरोसा हम पर ये देश और देशवासियों ने रखा है वो कभी टूटे ना, कभी बिखरे ना और कभी समाप्त ना हो। मैं इस सदन से, सांसदों से और ये महान देश के मेहनती करदाताओं से ये वादा करती हूँ, ये आश्वासन देती हूँ कि ये आपकी सरकार है और ये केवल आपके हित में सोचेगी। अंत में बस हमारे भव्य रामायण से 2 वाक्यों की उधारी लेना चाहूंगी। रघुकुल रीत सदा चली आई, रघुकुल रीत सदा चली आई, प्राण जाए पर वचन ना जाए। ये सरकार इन 2 वाक्यों का अनुपालन सुनिश्चित करने के लिए अपने शक्ति में निहित सब कुछ करेगी। जय हिंद, धन्यवाद।
आज के इस सत्र में जिस विषय पर चर्चा और प्रश्न उत्तर प्रस्तुत किए गए वह काफ़ी महत्वपूर्ण थे। इसी के साथ सदन का यह सत्र अगले बैठक तक स्थगित किया जाता है।